Star Wars Outlaws is the next game from Massive Entertainment, the team behind The Division. In Star Wars Outlaws, you follow Kay Vess, a scoundrel making her way across the world. The game's set in a 1-year period between The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, as Kay and her pal Nix travel the galaxy together. We recently got the chance to play the game for a few hours and chat with the game's star, Humberly González, and Nikki Foy, one of the game's lead writers. We wanted to know firstly what it's like to be working in such a sacred part of the Star Wars canon, and how it's possible to tell a story in such a short period of established lore without breaking anything.
It's definitely exciting. I love the challenge of it's like a puzzle to solve. You know your limitations. I think it's way easier to be creative when you have those limitations. When you are just sort of like, whatever you want, it can get a little overwhelming. So knowing this universe and being such a fan of it, it's like, hey, this is the section that you have. It's great. And I know the whole team loves that about it, where we get to be like, oh, these are all the references that we want to use. These are all the toys that we have to play with. These are all the new things we can inject, and knowing where it sits, it was perfect for us. Working with Lucasfilm has been amazing. They are such good collaborators. We will come to them with an idea, and it's always like a yes and. Like, oh, we love that. What about this angle on it? Or if there is something that, you know, they're working on that we don't know about, it's very much like, let's work to make this work with you guys. So it's been perfect having this crazy amount of knowledge that we get to tap into, and they are so passionate. And every time we met with them, every piece of feedback, every conversation, it was all great, like foundational things down to great details. So at every stage we would interact with them and collaborate, and I think that it made the results so much more texture and really, really great details. So super happy to work with them.
When Star Wars fans hear scoundrel, there's only one man they think of. So was it difficult to create a game around a scoundrel archetype without crossing into Han Solo tribute act territory?
I think that the scoundrel mythos or idea is a lot more than just a Han Solo character. I think that a scoundrel in Star Wars to me is a regular person who is trying to carve out their own place in the galaxy. They're not a rebel, they're not Empire, and I think, like, you know, Han is a rebel, really, and Kay is not. And not a Jedi, doesn't have powers, is just a person who refuses to play the hand that she's been dealt. She's going to go above and just demand that the world give her something that she feels she deserves. So I think in terms of developing a new character in that, it was exciting, and it was a challenge that was satisfying to meet, because it was like, oh, if we, the writing team and the designers and stuff, were in this world, we don't have powers, we're not part of this thing, like, how would we try to survive? How would Kay try to survive? It was really great.
Humberly González is no stranger to Ubisoft games. Having previously appeared in Far Cry, she takes centre stage as Kay Vess, the game's main character. We wanted to know what it was like building that character from scratch and what she brings to the role.
When I first went out for the project, I didn't even know it was Star Wars. So when I first auditioned for something, I try to hang on to how Humberly shows up in the character. I don't try to start from something I don't know. I always go from within. So within that first audition, I felt her energy of, you know, she looks for opportunity. She's kind of dismissive when it doesn't go her way, but then when there's money involved and there's something for her, she kind of changes her whole thing, and she's charming, and you can tell that she's a bit of a rookie, and all of those things I felt even from the initial framework I had to work with. And when I actually found out that it was Star Wars and I got to know Kay Vess, her background, her dreams, what drives her, it was really interesting to see what I could keep from where I started to how I had to kind of let go of some things and then grow into them. But I think at the core of it, there was a lot of like Humberly that could infuse the story, because I did feel this energetic like connection to the character. And it's so interesting when that happens, that even before I booked the role, there was something in me that felt almost at peace and confident that I was I was like, this is for me, and I know that it is. So I had to trust that Kay was always with me, and she also taught me a lot, like her resilience, the way that she doesn't always show her cards. She's probably less vulnerable than I am as a person. There was a lot of that. So, but I could also infuse her with my heart. So it's a bit of a give and take, and getting to collaborate with the writers and the director that guide you into, hey, think about this for this moment, and suddenly a whole world opens up of, oh, I hadn't seen it that way, of course. But I think as an artist, I always work from instinct and from where I feel her heart and her drive is. So the fact that everybody was really open to that, and they said, yes, that's it. So it's great when it really aligns.
Outlaws has another main character, Nyx. The tiny companion is Humberly's co-pilot through the galaxy, and for the player, it's an essential gameplay tool. We wanted to know what it was like to work with a character that was, sorry to say this, not really there.
I love mocap so much. It's definitely a lot more challenging than working for TV and film. In TV and film, you're being supported so much by the set, the costume, the props, the hair, the makeup. You get to wear quite physically the character. In this case, it's all stripped away. You're in a cat suit with markers in a volume with just cameras around you and a set built from what feels like Lego pieces, wood and markers, and you get to interact with it. So I get to be very creative. I get to trust myself, be vulnerable, and trust that my childlike nature of playing pretend will come out, and it really does. And especially interacting with Nyx, we had an actual professional puppeteer on set, so it wasn't just a tennis ball. It was actually a real puppet that I could play with, that often I could be sitting there and, you know, he's like rubbing up against me and I'm petting it, and like even between scenes we would always interact, and it was so fun to almost build that relationship the entire time we were there and when cameras are rolling. But it's one of my favorite things for video games, is that you do get to kind of dig into the physicality of playing pretend and being in the ship and being like, okay, we're gonna fly to space now. Like, it's just, you have to create it in your mind's eye, and I think that's such a beautiful way to like visualize the galaxy, and I hadn't seen any of it, like all of it as is, until now. So it's been like a couple years of me just living in this imaginary world, and then we get to see it come to life. It's truly magic.
Star Wars Outlaws is an open world game that mashes open world with more linear levels. We wanted to know what it was like writing for a game like that, and how you balance those large cinematic moments with the quieter periods where Kay and Nyx are simply riding around on the planet.
It's a great question. I think honestly, the joy to me of writing video games is that you get to do so many different things. You're doing these overarching, almost like filmic style stories, but then you're also doing this sort of like theater of the world thing of like these little scenes happening. And throughout production cycles, writers really get to work on all of those things at different times. So for me, yeah, writing like a cinematic where Humberly's gonna tell a joke and do something cool, that's very fun. Writing like a fight scene, that's very fun. But there's a lot more, I don't know, like texture fabric in the world that you can get really specific on, or a little sillier on. I think in the demo there's like one of our writers wrote this great side story about this like little astromech that's very depressed, and it's like, that's amazing. Yeah. So like, I think getting to do both is the best. And there's things I love about both of them. If I had to pick one, I want to write fight scenes. But honestly, the fact that we get to do it all is really special. Yeah.
With Star Wars Outlaws, Humberly González joins a very short list of people who can say that they were the star of a Star Wars project. We wanted to know how that felt, and what it's like knowing that she's been inducted into a franchise that will stay with her for her entire career.
There's definitely this sense of beautiful responsibility, but I also feel like if I was going to be in any franchise, I feel very honored and ready to be a part of this one. You know, being an immigrant and Latina and queer and learning English at a later age, living in Canada, like all of the opportunity that brought me to that point, to then getting to show my work and be chosen for something like this, it felt very mutual. Truly, when I say that there was this sense of like, oh, this is the project, this is something we got to do together, I felt the alignment. I felt like I've been waiting to to play a character like her that was both strong with heart, that was action based, that, you know, she was witty and funny and all of the things that I feel make me me. And my journey this far as a human in the world, I feel like there are parallels with Kay. So the representation really does matter, especially in the video game industry, in this industry in general. Being a woman of color and being women working in this space, it feels like such an honor, and I hope that they see that there's a demand and that people are excited for it so we can continue to keep creating. Yeah.
I mean, you're probably going to get an action figure at this point.
I cannot wait. I mean, I'm gonna have to make like a little like room for all of my toys, like a shrine of. It's honestly a dream come true. Yeah.
And should the opportunity in the future arise for Kay to appear in live action, would Humberly be interested?
Absolutely. Like, I feel like I've been in her world for a few years now. That, you know, you are putting that and animating it and putting it into a video game. I think seeing the great detail of what an actual human connection to the world could look like, I know I have the skills to bring that to real life, so it would even just expand the world of Outlaws.
Thanks for checking out this interview. There's plenty more Star Wars Outlaws coverage to check out on VGC, including 20 minutes of footage which you can watch with no commentary or with our preview impressions. Until then, remember to subscribe to VGC and check out patreon.com/videogameschronicle. Until next time, see you later.